All right, I have the privilege of having one of the best Giants writers in the business. He writes for Giants Wire, Giants Insider, and he hosts the Giants Guys podcast. Make sure to check it out. John Fennelly. John, how you doing?
Good, Bobby. How you doing today?
Great, man. Glad to have you on. I know we've talked about this in the past. So camp is underway, but I want to introduce you a little bit first. Now, something that sticks out with me, I listen to almost all the Giants content. With you, man, your knowledge of Giants history is unbelievable. I mean, I could probably just tell you number 43, and you could name me like every guy that's worn the number 43.
Well, we'll start with Spider Lockhart. We'll start with Spider Lockhart in the 60s and 70s. How's that?
Like I said, I knew I could call you on that, man. When
I'm listening to your show,
when I'm listening to your show, I'm like, man, this guy just has a memory bank like no other of players that have played with the Giants, guys I've never even heard of. But camp has started, had a rough few days with the Shepard breaking his thumb, Coleman going down, Tate with the suspension. So I want to start there with Tate. I know he released this statement of what happened with it being a fertility drug. What do you think happens with that? Do you see any chance of a reduction or anything with that?
No, because when it comes to PEDs, the NFL has a history of just keeping it at the 4 games. They've been very consistent with that. Guys who have domestic violence charges against them somehow get their sentences, I call them sentences, somehow gets their suspension reduced. I don't see how those guys get their suspensions reduced. And a guy who makes a mistake, so he says, doesn't. But I don't see it happening. I think he's going to do the 4 games.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, we talk about it earlier in the show, but Robert Mathis, he got caught with the same thing, and
right.
They're pretty strict with that, and I do understand that, but it is wild when you talk about domestic violence guys getting less, and it's just some wild stuff.
But some things have developed just this morning. Dan Benton, who's the senior editor at Giants Wire, just shot me a text before saying that Tate's wife gave birth in February. So is he really taking fertility drugs?
Yeah, and I don't know.
I don't understand how that happened.
Yeah, and I don't know what the exact drug was, but I remember Robert Mathis saying the same thing. And then the substance that it was supposedly like a masking agency for, to not pop up on tests. So like you said, I don't see them dropping it down at all. But what do you think the Giants need to do with Tate out those first 4 games and Coleman gone? And, I think we all expect Shepard to be back for week 1, but how do you expect him to change their approach?
Pretty much if Shepard is there, then he'll play his normal position. Cody Latimer is going to play. He's probably going to start. They do have Benny Fowler. A lot of people don't like Benny Fowler, but, I watched him. And, I really like the way he runs routes. He's tough around the football. He can really fight for the ball. He's reliable. I don't know if Slayton, the rookie, will be back, but if he's back, maybe he'll get some run. They'll try everybody. They brought in some new guys. There's T.J. Jones, and I don't think the kid from Syracuse, Editawo, is really going to be much of a difference maker for them. He's talented. You see him in practice. He looks really, he looks very fluid and polished. But out on the field, let's see how he does. Maybe he's better. He hasn't been able to crack an NFL roster since he left the Giants. So,
yeah, I don't see him making it, and I think they're actually going to use that T.J. Jones guy more than most would probably expect.
And now you return also T.J. Jones. So
yeah, definitely. And I think I saw a note that he was returning yesterday already. Yeah. So we'll see how they use him. Now you wrote about Evan Ingram and playing more wide receiver. Kind of explain your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's just a natural progression. They have 3 very good blocking tight ends in Red Ellison, Scott Simonson, and the rookie out of Kentucky, C.J. Conrad, who they really, really like. So to get these 3 guys on the field, why are you lining up Ingram at tight end when he clearly that's not his best position? I think he's better off in the slot. I know a lot of people say he doesn't get the separation. He's not at 4.4840. How is that not fast enough to play receiver in this league? I think it is. And I think that he's very good at getting separation. He could beat linebackers. He could definitely beat some safeties. I don't have an issue with him playing in the slot. And, of course, he's a guy defenses have to account for. Somebody texted me or tweeted me before, safeties aren't afraid of him. Well, that's because he doesn't play that often. They haven't learned to be afraid of him yet. And the Giants haven't learned how to use him yet. When you think about it, they don't really have a game plan for him. He's not really incorporated into that game plan.
Yeah, I think he's going to be huge. Even if Tate wasn't suspended, I mean, I went and did a split of his numbers last year, and the last 4 games where Odell didn't play, his yards went up by 45 yards per game.
Well, you know what the mystery was, Bobby? The mystery is they don't use him until the second half. They don't get blood in his mouth, as they say, in the first series of the game, and they can't soften up the defense with him. They've got to start doing that with this guy. They haven't done that in the past.
Yeah, definitely. And I think he will stay at the tight end role, but like you said, I think they'll split him out more often than not. I don't see him, going to a primarily in the slot, especially when guys like Shepard are more comfortable in the slot. But that actually leads me to my point. With Tate gone and Shepard was, poised to play on the outside more primarily, do you think they move him in and play him primarily from the slot in those 4 games, or do you see them trying to fill that role with somebody else and let Shep focus on his new role?
I think they probably want Shepard to play on the wing because that's where he's going to end up. But they will shift guys around. Latimer will definitely be outside. You can look for him to do that. And then whoever wins in camp. There's a lot of competition now, so let's see who bubbles up. Like I said, Fowler will get some play. Russell Shepard has played very well so far, and he's a veteran. And, he's the kind of guy, he's a typical wide receiver that isn't a star, but he's also got to be on somebody's roster. He's good enough to play in this league. When you throw the ball to him, he catches it. He's a reliable guy. He's going to play also.
Yeah, he seems to get forgetting, but like you said, he's extremely reliable. He's kind of, is a do everything right guy. I mean, he was pretty good. He was pretty good for Tampa and Carolina. He didn't get used a whole lot, but he was solid when he was called upon.
When you listen to Tyke Tolbert, I'm sorry to interrupt you. He talks about his group, his room. He always mentions Russell Shepard, always. So, he's on their mind. But, when it comes to the game, he doesn't really play that much until, like I said, after the game gets going a little bit, they'll try to sneak him in. But, if he starts, if you give him an opportunity, I think he could be, a reliable target. And you're just talking about the first month of the season now. You're not talking about, forever.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's when the suspension came out, it's almost like doomsday, and then you remember. It's just the first 4 games of the season, and 3 of those are against pretty bad teams in Tampa, Washington, and Buffalo.
And this whole thing with the receivers, just to put an end to it right here, these guys are out there running every day. Tate is still practicing. Shepard is practicing, but just not catching a football. He's running through the motions every day. He's staying in shape. So, it's just that I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal.
Yeah, I agree. I expected a lot out of Tate, and I still do when he comes back. So, but yeah, I agree that where Shepard's injury sucks, but really it doesn't affect the team regular season wise unless there was some kind of setback, which I don't think any of us see happening.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, so let's move on from the receivers though. We spent a good 9 minutes on that. Who do you think's the guy that stood out in camp the most so far? Is it from the quarterback room or somebody else?
No, it's definitely Lorenzo Carter. I mean, he has absolutely burst onto the scene for the Giants. He's a lot bigger, a lot stronger, still has the speed, has a great wingspan. He knows how to code switch between pass and run. This is something he couldn't do last year because they inserted him in different parts of the game, in different positions on the field. Now that he has his own position and he has a job and he's learning the job, I think he's going to really blossom into a Pro Bowl style player.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. In fact, that was one of my questions. Is Lorenzo Carter as good as advertised? And we saw him make some plays on the first day.
Yeah.
It's going to be a big season for him, and they're going to rely on him a whole lot. Who do you see being the key to the defense, though? Not necessarily the leader or the quarterback of the defense, but who, if anybody, who is the guy that's going to make that defense go?
Well, I think
besides Carter, possibly.
Well, we thought it would be Ogletree last year, and it wasn't. And this year, I think there's 2 guys outside of Carter that I keep my eye on. And actually 3 guys. Dexter Lawrence, if he can be the 3-down lineman that they say he can be, will have a huge impact. B.J. Hill will also have a huge impact if he can improve. And he was very good as a rookie. Now he comes back. Can he elevate his game? And of course, Jabril Peppers is the X factor. The guy is such a tremendous athlete. When I talked to Amani Toomer, he was a Michigan guy, and so was Peppers, and he said, "This kid, there's nothing this kid can't do, nothing." He said he could even play offense if they wanted him to. That's how good he is.
Yeah, and I mean, he did that at Michigan. He was all over the place. Yeah, I think he works perfectly with Betcher because Betcher likes to move his guys around. In fact, we've heard reports of him playing up the line. And Betcher, that whole money backer role, it seems like Betcher, Peppers would be the perfect fit for that. Obviously not as full-time as like a Deion Buchanan did in Arizona,
right,
but to be used. They brought in Boston and Cyprin for a visit last week. Why do you don't you think they brought one of those guys in instead of, was it money or what? Because I thought Boston would be a great fit who could, play behind Bethea, and then they could run them some 3 safety sets.
Well, Cyprian was coming off an injury, so we don't know how well he worked out. But Boston is still out there because I think he's asking for too much money. He should be on a roster by now. I thought the Giants would sign him in March, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, he seemed to be like the number one wish guy on like a lot of people's wish list for defense. He's only 27 years old. His stats line up, and his film looks good. It's kind of wild that I know he does want more money than he's getting, but it's kind of wild that no team has gave him that money. Not even talking about just the Giants.
Yeah, the safety market in free agency, kind of like the first 2 days, boom. You had Landon Collins getting an extraordinarily over-the-market contract, if you ask me. But Boston, I think his agent's probably asking for too much money. He should be on a roster by now. And it's detrimental to his chances that he's not by now. If training camps have started, you really have to get going.
Yeah, it like you said, it's kind of wild that he hasn't been on a team. Maybe Eric Reed was a guy who waited last year and ended up on Carolina. Maybe he's taken a similar role, but I mean, you could argue that he's better than Bethea. I think Bethea, although 35, has the edge still. But the argument's out there to be made, and
well, they Bethea, still could sign him. I mean, they're probably just waiting for him to cave. Who knows?
Yeah, hopefully that's what it is. I want to talk about that second middle linebacker spot. There's Tate Davis and B.J. Goodson have to be the main two guys. Ryan Connolly, the rookie, I don't see him getting in there right away, but maybe towards the end of the season. Who do you think has the edge out of Davis and Goodson?
It's probably neck and neck right now. Goodson's on the last year of his contract, so if he doesn't, perk up and play better, and play better against the pass, he's not going to play. I mean, Davis will win the job, and what I think you'll see is Conley come in packages because he does play the pass very well. He may end up winning that job at some point anyway.
Yeah. It's an interesting position. I like Tate Davis. I'm a little biased because I spent some time with him in Orlando, interviewing him. But yeah, it's interesting, because they really didn't go out and get anybody. I know Mason Foster is somebody the Redskins cut, but I don't think he's an option.
They don't have a lot of cap space to play around with either. So.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I think if they were going to use that cap space, they'd use it on somebody else. So. Corey Ballantyne, he talked today for the first time.
Yeah.
And, you wrote up a piece on that. I mean, what was it like listening to that guy, after, his first time talking, after his, friend died in the shooting and he was shot as well? I mean, how kind of talk us through that.
Well, he's a good kid, very well-spoken. He said he's going to play, he's playing for 2 futures, his and his friend Dwayne Simmons, who was the young man who was killed in that incident. And, he's got him in his heart, and he's going to go out there and he's going to do the best he can. And, Dwayne is going to guide him, He's thinking about getting a tattoo, but he doesn't have any tattoos. He's thinking if he gets a tattoo, it's going to be in honor of Dwayne, but he hasn't decided on that yet. So.
Yeah, man, it was pretty heart-wrenching listening to him. I didn't hear the full audio, but I did see some of the clips that some of the beat guys wrote or put out.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, another corner who we drafted, Julian Love. Now, they said they're playing him at safety. I'm more of the thought of play him where you expect him to play. So if he's going to play, if you want him to play safety, put him at safety full time. If you want him to play nickel, put him at nickel full time. Where do you see him ending up?
He's not a safety. He's got to play the slot corner or nickel corner, one of the two. He's a package guy, and they're going to be probably 65% in 5 DB packages. So
yeah, nickel's essentially the base defense now.
Yeah, they don't start out that way. It all depends on who they play. I mean, you have to play the offense, your opponent's offense. So if they have 4 wide receivers, this guy's going to be out on the field a lot.
Right. All right, John, I want to finish it up, but before I let you go, tell us about you, how you've gotten to where you are, where we could find your work, and where we could find your Twitter and all that stuff.
Well, I've been doing this since 1997. I worked in the financial industry for a good quarter of a century, and then I went back to school. I got a journalism degree, and then I started doing this. I had a couple of my own websites, Pro Football NYC, and then my Giants website was incorporated into Sportsnet New York, and I worked for them for 12 years. And Ralph Acciano took that over when my contract ran out. Then I came over to USA Today. So I've been covering the Giants basically 20-some-odd years. But I also do the NFL draft and other NFL stuff. Every once in a while I'll do baseball or something, when I have some free time. But you can find me on Giants Wire on the USA Today website. You just go to giantswire.com. And you can also find me on the Giants Guys podcast with Craig Santucci. And if you're into print, the Giant Insider is still being printed. We don't have an online presence yet, but it's still the #1 print periodical when it comes to the Giants football. So you can look me up there.
All right, John, I appreciate you coming on, and we'll definitely talk again soon.
Okay, thanks, Bobby.
All right, thanks, John.